Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive?
Always. What have we got today?
Today, we're going to unpack the incredible life of Lori Lomanto.
Oh, interesting. I've heard her name before.
Yeah, she's faced a lot. Childhood trauma, addiction, the whole long road to recovery. But what makes her story so powerful is how she turned all that into something inspiring, really inspiring.
And we're going to get that story straight from the source.
Straight from Lori herself, in her own words, no holding back. Well, you'll say. You really connect with her story, hear it directly from her.
Okay, I'm hooked already. So where do we start?
Let's start with her early life. Lori had a tough childhood. She was sick a lot as a kid, and as she tells it, that led to, well, she says, some PTSD and ADHD tendencies.
PTSD from childhood illness. That's not something you hear every day.
Right. You don't usually associate the two. But she describes it as pretty traumatic, For a child being sick that much, that long, it can be scary. Like, it disrupts their whole sense of safety and control.
Yeah, that makes sense. It can lead to anxiety, maybe flashbacks, trouble regulating emotions, even later in life. And ADHD, well, we still don't know everything about what causes it, but we know that early stress can be a factor.
And for Lori, it sounds like that meant struggling to focus, being impulsive, having trouble regulating her emotions academically and socially. It really impacted her.
But there's a silver lining here.
Right.
Didn't she have a pretty supportive mom?
Absolutely. Lori talks a lot about how patient her mother was, teaching her basic skills, never giving up on her, even when things were tough.
That's so crucial, that kind of support. It can't erase everything, of course, but it's such a strong foundation. Studies show that a good parent-child bond, that close connection, it can really protect kids from the effects of early trauma.
And then there's sports. It's like sports became this, well, almost like a counterbalance to all the difficulty. She played everything. Basketball, softball, even field hockey.
She was good. Really excelled, from what I've heard.
Oh, yeah. Almost like she found a space where she could just thrive. And think about the skills you learn in sports. Teamwork, discipline, bouncing back from setbacks. Those are skills that help you later in life, too.
You're right, absolutely. It builds character. And didn't Lori say something about how sports taught her leadership skills and good sportsmanship? Important stuff, especially as a kid figuring things out.
Exactly. But even with all that positivity, there's this really, really devastating event that happened. When Lori was just 11 years old, she was sexually abused by a friend's father.
That's awful. Just
Yeah.
awful. And that's where I think we see how deep and how lasting the impact of trauma can be, especially something like that. It violates a child's sense of safety, of trust. It can trigger so many emotional and psychological problems, anxiety, depression, even trouble forming healthy relationships later on.
And for Lori, it sounds like that trauma played a big part in her struggles with addiction down the road. Because even though she was still finding success in sports, she started drinking heavily at a young age, almost like she was trying to numb the pain.
That's tragically common, sadly. Substance use, it gives us temporary relief from emotional pain, but it's so dangerous, so destructive. It's never the answer, but when you're hurting that much. It's important to remember, though, addiction isn't a choice. It's a disease, a complex one, often with roots in trauma and mental health issues.
And we see that play out in Lori's life. She overdosed on alcohol, ended up in rehab. Then, to finish high school, she got sent to a juvenile boarding school.
So even with sports, it wasn't enough to outrun the addiction, was it?
It just shows you how powerful addiction is, how it can take hold of anyone's life, regardless of who you are, what talents you have, or your support system. Really a stark reminder that addiction doesn't discriminate.
Right. Lori's story really challenges that idea that it's some kind of moral failing, a choice. No, it's a disease. And it needs compassion, understanding, and real treatment. Treatment that addresses the substance use, but also the trauma underneath.
So after high school, Lori found herself in this fast-paced world of waitressing and bartending. Lots of money, staying out late, constant social interaction. It appealed to her risk-taking tendencies. And during this time, she became a mother. Kind of a bright spot in a challenging period, I guess.
Becoming a parent is huge, a life changer. But it doesn't just magically erase everything else that's going on. The vulnerabilities, the things that contribute to addiction, they don't just disappear. In fact, all that stress, the new responsibilities, it can make things worse sometimes.
And that's what happened with Lori. Her substance use escalated. From alcohol, she moved on to cocaine, and then eventually to crack cocaine.
Crack cocaine, man, that's tough stuff. Highly addictive. The highs are so intense, so fast, but then the cravings hit and they can really take over your life. Leads to a pretty bad downward spiral, physically, mentally, socially. It's rough.
And that's what we see happen with Lori. She describes this whole period as, well, like a descent into the drug scene, a world of loss, desperation, and the constant threat of violence.
It's a harsh reality. Addiction's consequences, they're devastating. Not just for the person struggling, but for everyone around them, too. Families, relationships, they get torn apart, trust gets broken, the ripples just keep spreading.
And for Lori, it all kind of culminated in this moment of tragedy. She got involved in a drug deal, and someone ended up dying. Can you imagine the weight of that? The guilt and shame?
It's heavy stuff, no doubt. But for Lori, that tragic event, it became this turning point, the ultimate wake-up call, the worst kind, really. But it gave through. The guilt, the shame, the exhaustion of that life, it all kind of converged. She was desperate for change.
And that's when she found faith. In that moment of despair, she decided to get help. Entered this faith-based organization for women and children. She was determined to leave that old life behind.
Sounds like the start of a real journey, a journey toward healing. That structured environment, the support, the spiritual aspect, it all plays a part.
Right, absolutely. But as Lori tells it, sobriety, at first, well, she hated it. Hated the life she'd lived, even hated herself.
Makes sense, though, doesn't it? I mean, recovery is not just about quitting the drugs or alcohol. It's deeper. You have to face the pain, the trauma, the patterns that got you there in the first place. It's hard work, peeling back all those layers, getting to the root of things, learning to live without those crutches.
Yeah, Lori had to go through a complete transformation. Her values, her standards, her whole belief in herself. She had to learn to love and respect herself again and forgive herself for the past.
It's amazing, though, isn't it? The human capacity for change. The brain, it can rewire itself, build new pathways. It's about developing healthy coping mechanisms. Lori shows us that even after going through something so tough, we can rewrite our stories. We can embrace a new way of being.
And she didn't stop there. Remember those learning difficulties she had as a kid? Well, she got her master's degree. Pretty remarkable considering everything she'd been through.
It's like education became this empowering thing for her. Taking back control after all those years of addiction controlling her life, she proved to herself and to the world that she could do it.
And then, after 15 years away, she went back to her hometown, faced the judgment, the perceptions of the people who knew her when she was at her worst. Think of the courage that took.
Going back, it's symbolic, right? It says, I'm willing to confront my past.
Yeah.
This is who I am now. She challenged the stigma around addiction, took back her narrative, didn't let her past mistakes define her.
And, she did it with grace and with strength. People saw the change in her. A woman of faith, overcoming incredible odds. Actions speak louder than words, right? Her transformation was real.
It reminds us that redemption, it's not about erasing the past. It's about acknowledging it, learning from it. It's fuel for growth. Lori shows us how we can rewrite our stories, and in doing so, inspire others.
But her story doesn't stop there. She keeps pushing her boundaries, taking on new challenges with the same courage and determination she used to overcome addiction.
It's inspiring. She shows us that recovery, it's not a destination, it's a journey. Lifelong, a journey of self-discovery, constantly challenging yourself, getting outside that comfort zone.
Like, for example, she opened her own practice. I can only imagine how scary that must have been, putting herself out there like that, especially with her fear of failure. But she did it. Talk about coming full circle.
It really shows you how far she's come, doesn't it? Both personally and professionally. A real act of self-belief. She healed internally, and now she's helping others to heal too. It's what they call turning pain into purpose, right?
And then there's the YouTube channel, putting herself out there for the whole world to see. She could have let the fear hold her back, worried about what people would think, or if anyone would even watch. But she went for it, embraced the unknown, shared her story.
And that's true courage, isn't it? To be that vulnerable, to share your story when it feels scary. But those moments, those vulnerable moments, they create connection. They inspire empathy. They can inspire other people to start their own journey of healing and transformation.
It's pretty incredible. Lori took all that darkness, all that pain, and turned it into something so powerful, so positive.
Yeah, her story gives you hope. A real testament to the resilience of the human spirit. Reminds us that even when things feel their worst, there's always a possibility of redemption, of transformation.
It's more than just overcoming addiction. It's about pushing past those boundaries, stepping outside that comfort zone, embracing what you don't know. What do you think keeps her going like this constant push to move forward?
I think it comes down to wanting to make a difference. To use everything she's been through to help others. People struggling with similar challenges. Like I said, pain turned into purpose. It's about showing others that they're not alone. that recovery is possible, that there's hope, even in the darkest times.
It makes you think, about all those people out there, silently fighting their own battles, feeling alone, lost in their struggles.
And that's what Lori's story reminds us of. We're never truly alone. Sharing our experiences, it creates connections. It fosters empathy. It gives people hope. And we can all do that, share our stories, no matter who we are or what we've been through.
So as we keep going deeper into Lori Lomanto's life, we're left with this big question. How do we confront our own pasts? How do we rewrite our own narratives? And how do we embrace that process of personal growth? It's something for us all to think about, to reflect on our own journeys, and to explore how resilient we can be. Lori's story, it really makes you think, about how we can choose how our past defines us or doesn't define us. She shows us we can keep striving for something more, even when it feels scary.
Absolutely. And it's not just the addiction, right? She faced those deep-seated fears, challenged what people expected of her, kept pushing those boundaries way beyond what she thought was possible.
Yeah, and you talked about education being this powerful thing for her, taking back control of her mind, and then opening her own practice that takes guts, real self-belief. What do you think, what helped her make such a huge transformation?
Well, I think it was a few things, both from within and from her support system. Inside, Lori really wanted to change, and she was willing to do the work. She asked for help, she faced her past, and she found better ways to cope. And on the outside, she had that faith-based organization. Later, her family and friends were there for her. And we can't forget faith, the power of that in her journey. It gave her hope, a sense of purpose, the strength to get through recovery.
So it's like a multi-pronged approach, Transformation, it's not just one thing. It's emotional, psychological, even spiritual. It takes more than just willpower. It takes the right environment to grow and heal.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And we got to remember, transformation, it's not a straight line. There are going to be bumps, doubts, times where it feels like you're going backwards. But the important thing is to keep moving, even if it's slowly.
Progress, not perfection. Lori's story is a great example of that. This wasn't an overnight thing. It was a journey, trial and error. Falling down, getting back up, over and over.
And it's still going on. Her story doesn't end with getting sober or with her practice. She keeps challenging herself, looking for new ways to grow, using what she's learned to help others.
And that's why her story resonates with so many people, right? It's not about reaching some finish line and saying, I'm fixed. It's about always becoming, learning, evolving. Lori shows us that, and in that way, her story, it's like an invitation to all of us to look at our own pasts, rewrite our own stories, and, well, to embrace that whole messy but beautiful journey of growth.
Well said. As we wrap up our deep dive into Lori Lomanto's amazing life, let's hold on to her story. It's a reminder that even when things are incredibly tough, we humans, we have this incredible ability to be resilient, to heal, and to change for the better.